On today's episode of What We Watch, we take a look at what you guys said was your favorite TV show of all time. Hey guys, what's up? It's Matt from What We Watch, and today is the day. Episode 001, Ground Floor. This is it, kicking it off. It's going to be great. We are so excited that you are along for the ride. Just a reminder, there's another video that we have that kind of explains everything that we are doing. I'll be sure to link that. But what we are doing today is kicking off episodes that we will be doing every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And they're just going to be these little bite-sized things that you can kind of digest every couple of days, where we're going to look at movies and TV shows and culture and all this sort of stuff, and just take a little dive into it and talk about maybe what it means, what we thought of it, and react to those situations. So I'm so glad that you are along for this. It's going to be such a blast. And remember that we are having a conversation here, so be sure to share these videos. Be sure to say what I'm doing right, what I'm doing wrong, what I was a genius about, which, I mean, that's a lot, obviously, but also be sure to tell me what I'm doing terribly, terribly wrong and where I'm completely incorrect. I doubt that will happen, but, you know, there's a first time for everything. But today we are going to be taking a look back at the What We Watched TV tournament. It was so much fun. We had over 3,000 votes. 3,000 votes for this. And it was just so much fun. But at the end of the day, the champion supreme was The Office. The Office won by a landslide against a debate that I feel still rages on, and that is The Office versus Parks and Recreation. But The Office came out on top. Thank you guys so much for participating in that. And so what we're going to be talking about today is what makes The Office so good. I mean, there are plenty of great reasons. There's the Jim and Pam romance. There's, of course, Dwight and Michael Scott. Michael Scott might be one of the greatest TV personalities of all time. He is just so hilarious and so funny. And what's funny is when I'm saying that, I can picture the actual Michael Scott getting super full of himself and then making the situation incredibly awkward because he thinks that he's cool now and then has to act cool because people think that he's cool. And just the fact that I can physically imagine a character and how they would react to a real world situation is kind of one of the things that makes that show so great. But this also brings up an interesting topic that I saw throughout the tournament is, can a few bad episodes or a few bad seasons ruin a show? I heard this a lot about one of our number one seeds, The Simpsons. A lot of people think that The Simpsons is way past its due date, and so if they were just looking at the first 8 seasons or so, then they would love The Simpsons, but it just has kind of become stale. And The Office and a lot of shows, I would say, kind of fall into this category. It's really hard to pitch a perfect game. Even shows like What We Watch, I feel, kind of failed to, not What We Watch. Oh, we're on episode 1 and we're already saying that we're going to be doomed. I'm just kidding. But what I will say is How I Met Your Mother, for example. A lot of people feel that that show failed to stick the landing, that it failed to kind of wrap up in a nice, neat little way. And even its last season or two was a little bit sloppy and they were kind of just running out of things to do. And I feel like that happens a lot of times with TV shows, is that they go way past their prime and they end because they have to, not because they want to. That's where there's these few shows, I think Friends was in this boat, and I think that Seinfeld was in this boat, where a lot of them were in shows like MASH, where they were at the top of their game, and that's when they decided to step away. And so I feel like kind of taking this into a little bit deeper, a lot of times I feel like we do that same exact thing, where we wait and we wait and we wait and we wait until it's almost too late. We normally make changes because we have to and because we're being forced to, not because we want to. And so that's one thing that watching all of these shows, and what would make a great time show, is a lot of these shows ended because they got to. That people were begging for another season, and yet they said, well, you know what, we've told the story that we have to tell. and it's time to do something else, or it's time for these characters to kind of come to a close. And so that was really interesting to see that. This whole idea of being able to be self-aware enough to know that, yes, we could milk this cow for a little bit longer and people will watch and we'll become a little bit less popular, but knowing that it's going to kind of mess with your long-term goals. And so maybe that's you. Maybe you're sitting there and you're watching this thing and you're like, oh, I just came here to hear about TV shows. But just a little bit deeper on that. Maybe you find yourself always in a situation where you're making changes because you have to. Maybe that's something that's happening in your spiritual life. Maybe that's something that's happening in your job or in a relationship. Maybe you're only making changes because there's no other option and someone has sent you the thing saying, hey, guess what? Season 9 is canceled. You need to do something else. But maybe it's better for our long-term growth if we realize that, hey, maybe this chapter is over. Maybe this story has been told in the complete way that we can tell it. And to give it the proper send-off, we need to recognize that. So maybe just take some time today and think about what's one thing that you maybe should be wrapping up. Great leaders and great people also know not only when to start things, but when to quit things and to focus on other objects or other tasks or goals. So maybe just dwell on that a little bit today. But enough of the seriousness. Let's get down to the nitty-gritty, which is that The Office is your guys' favorite TV show of all time. There was a few things that really surprised me. One, I had no idea that so many people liked Whose Line Is It Anyway? Like that. One, I love that show. It's hilarious, but I'm really surprised it got that far. So that was really exciting for me to see. And then two, it seemed like it always comes down to Parks and Rec versus The Office. And so I myself am an Office fan, and full transparency, I've not seen all of Parks and Rec. So maybe there's something that I just will magically fall in love with, and it's a really fun show of what I have seen. But I feel like that's a debate that rages on whenever I talk about either of those two shows. And so it was really cool to see those two kind of come down in the finals. So that kind of is what we wanted to talk about today. First off, just thank you so much for participating in that tournament. It was so much fun. We'll be sure to have more tournaments and more competitions, maybe not even just in March, but maybe just throughout the year, because you guys really seemed to enjoy discussing those different topics. So my questions of the day are, number one, do you think that The Office is one of the best shows of all time? And if not, what show should have won? Let us know in the comments down below. And two, if we are going to be having these continued debates and arguments, what are some things that you would like to see debated? Maybe it's specific kinds of TV shows or movies or different things like that. Let me know in the comments down below, and maybe we can get that tournament started. Well, that's it. That's episode 1. I'm glad you made it to the end of the video. Oh, I'm so proud of you guys. You guys are so strong. You guys are so courageous. Thank you for coming on this little adventure with me. And be sure to like, share, and subscribe to this stuff so you can be in the know about what is going on here at What We Watch. And we are here every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and I cannot wait to hang out with you guys again. Let us know what you want to talk about. We'll be here on Wednesday, and I would love to talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. So, I am Matt with What We Watch, and we will see you on Wednesday.